Hey everybody, welcome to the pod again. And last time I tried recording and I shared in my last Substack because total didn't happen. I went like 9 minutes into the recording and then I lost all train of thought. Like and I was like, oh man. Hmm. And I felt like if I kept going, I felt like I would be forcing it. So I decided to take a beat, take a step back, and do something else. And I ended up having a snack and then writing my last Substack that I published today. And it's all about failure. And I had this big aha moment about how my journey of this year, especially with my finances, I think if this were me at any time of my other time of my life in my past, I would have viewed it as a failure and quit and like started went back to nursing and stuff like that. But if you guys are familiar with my path, have been reading my Substack, you guys know that I have been trying to find a job in nursing without success. So I really feel in my heart of hearts that I'm meant to go this direction. I'm meant to be met with lots of closed doors because I'm meant to go in a particular direction because any other time in my life, I've, when there was something that really sparked something inside of me, like, this is what I'm going to do without question, and I'm going to make it happen, and took all the steps it took, or take all the steps that I needed to take to make it happen. And I think my first experience of that is when I went traveling on my first international trip to Europe. And I think I went to Italy, Spain, and Greece with girlfriends. So that was my first personal experience where I have proof that if I wanted to do a thing and it really inside of me, deep in my soul or in my inner knowing, that unquestioningly, and no fear. I used to have fear about traveling, and I was at this point in my life where I was like, really want to go on this trip. And none of those fears I used to have are there anymore about traveling abroad and going to other countries. In fact, I would have this message or this particular phrase or statement in my mind from someone that I had connected with. I don't even remember who this person was, but like in passing, somebody said that traveling is the biggest gift that you can give yourself in your life. And I heard that in my 20s. And that was like a message from my past that kept ringing in my ears at that time. And I took my first international traveling trip. Um, I think it was 2017, 2015, 2017, something like that. Um, so that was like my first personal proof that I could, when I know this is the way I'm supposed to go, that that's the direction and everything is just going to work out the way it needs to without having to plan every step. Traveling is a little bit less complicating, so the entrepreneurial path is a little bit different, has a lot more steps when it comes to building something rather than I need to pack or I need to get what do I need to pack for a 3-week trip that can fit in my carry-on luggage because I refuse to carry a giant suitcase, which I'm glad I didn't because there are no elevators in Europe. So carrying a giant suitcase up the stairs was ridiculous. So I was like, all I needed was when I was planning this trip with my girlfriends at the time, I was like, I don't care where we stay. I'm so easygoing, but all I need is a washer and dryer so I can wash my clothes because I'll only have a week's worth of clothes at a time. It was the summer too, so all the clothes were didn't take up a lot of space, which is nice. I think I only did had to do one load of laundry unless I was going swimming in the ocean or something. So that being said, this year I realized in that last Substack, if you want to read it more in detail, is, and I'll put in the show notes like I always do, is that failure was a part of the path, and I don't even personally recognize it as failure. Like other people would see that as failure. My old me would see it as failure, but now it's just like this is just my journey. Like, no, I don't need to label it good or bad. This is just what it is. And how can I meet each moment, especially when you take the journey of taking it step by step? Like, it's harder to view it as failure when you are taking it moment by moment, day by day, while you're building something. It's so much easier to tackle a project or endeavor this big, quote unquote, because each small step is very manageable. And when you're building something as big as an idea, as a business, big to me because I've never practiced it before. And when I like read like other people's words, like serial entrepreneurs or serial like startup folks, people who do startups, they are practiced in doing that same process of starting up a business over and over or building a business over and over. They've had the real world experience, or maybe they got their MBA, et cetera, et cetera. For me, it's this is my first time doing it. And who knows? Like maybe I like this, my C Joy and Expand LLC might be one business I open up in my entrepreneurial path. And in the future, I will close this one and start a new one. I'm not there yet. We'll see what happens. Like I've been noticing that the entrepreneurial path is just like the creative journey. It's just like making art. And like, bear with me and like, let me explain for a second and you'll get it. It's like when you create something, no matter what you label it as, it might feel a little bit more sticky, more like, meh. How is entrepreneurship art when you're like viewing it from the lens as like this is a business and money making and stuff like that? But anything that you are making from scratch is basically creativity, is art. And when you take the path of creating something from nothing, I'll use the analogy of painting. Like you have a vision for what you want to create, but you don't know what it will look like once you get there. But all you can do as you create is take one, well, let's take it a step back. You might even just like pencil draw, like sketch on the canvas what it is. So you have like an outline of what you want to paint in. And then you start filling in the colors and it goes in layers. You might have the background, and then you might like if it's a person, you might like layer on different pieces of the painting, and each brushstroke turns into, once you complete it, a whole fucking picture. So that's the analogy, like that's the tie-in I have with creativity and entrepreneurship or building anything. It doesn't have to be entrepreneurship, it could be anything. It could be building a relationship with your spouse or partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever you identify with, partner. It takes time, and in this world of instant gratification, nobody ever like talks about the journey of what it takes from taking like step A to getting to step Z when it's at completion or sees its fruition. And if you guys haven't heard yet, I think I shared this in the old episodes. Um, I created a group Substack with a couple of writing pals of mine, and we share our journeys from creating our like stepping into our entrepreneurial path, creating soul-led purposeful work, and stepping out of traditional workplace environments. That being said, in my last Substack, and I touched on this, is that I started reading this really cool book called the Portfolio Life, and it's about approaching life like from a portfolio kind of model instead of the exclusive 9 to 5, this one job from age 19 until I retire at 65 or whatever the retirement age is now. And instead, it's like, well, what are different things that I can do that I can generate income in like different ways? And it could look like different things, but it reiterates the point of doing something that you want to do. Like gone are the days of doing things because you have to, or you think you need to, or because you were taught to. And what could life look like if you decided to, well, what if I did a part-time here? Or what if I did this project that brought me money in this way? Like there's a lot of people who, like in the book, it gave the example of people who do portfolio careers as creatives, people who are in the industry and they act and stuff like that. They have like different like side gigs and hustles all at the same time. And granted, it doesn't have the the stability of something that is known and like doesn't like waver, like having the 9 to 5, getting the pension and stuff. But the the book highlights the history of where our collective is going from an economic standpoint. So the way that businesses are built now, they can't withstand the test of time. In fact, it brings me back to the old adage is like the change is the only constant, and the way that our parents viewed work, it's not sustainable for the earth, and like just depending on what sector, and it's not sustainable for our bodies. And from personal experience, you guys know my story about my nursing burnout and how if I didn't stop nursing when I did back in March, I probably would have gotten sick. Like I had those thoughts in my brain. I was like, I'm gonna get sick if I work this amount of hours and not and just I just knew I was gonna get sick. I was already teetering into feeling sick during my last weeks. And I could have stayed longer if I didn't agree to full time, if I stayed part time. But that's a whole other story. Like, why did I agree to full time? I don't know. It's like that helpful part of me that's like, oh, I can do it. And like I really had a plan. Like I really thought I was going to write out that job for years. And while I built my business, but it just never worked out. Like, which is it's that's in the past. I'm like no regrets or anything. It was a great and valuable learning experience of failure, of trying something I knew that I wasn't going to be able to tolerate in the long run, but certain experiences or life experience happened at the same time which pushed me over the edge, which is which is really funny because one of the things that I wanted to talk about when I originally tried to start this episode was how the collective, the systems that are in place right now is not ready or equipped to handle quote unquote life threatening like impacts. So, and let me scale it back to the micro. We all know people in our personal lives that have, like, it could be cousins or great grandparents or friends of friends, and they had a huge health event and it wiped out their savings they may have lost their house, etc. And like when I see that, I see the parallel in the collective, and I see how the pandemic was like a collective health event, and our systems that currently run was not equipped to handle such a wide scale event. So I'm not saying that, like, not saying to be scared of I'm very much like not a fear-based thinker, and I'm not saying that I've never felt fear. Like I've definitely used to be driven by fear in my younger years, but I've learned a relationship with fear. But it's just like something to notice. Like that was like, huh, that's really interesting that the systems that are in place cannot function when life happens, when and that was an extraordinary event, but it was like kind of like the macro version of what would happen to us on a personal level and an individual level. So, what do we do with that information? What is important, or what did we need to glean from that? And in the Western society, like I definitely noticed, especially in my career in the health sector in medicine, is that it's been always focused on reactionary solutions rather than preventative maintenance. And that's all, like I never like and I was raised by my mom who's like a 40-year like veteran retired RN ICU, and she, even though with all her Western medicine knowledge, see, she still chose to raise us and like take care of us through holistic medicine from what she was taught by from her parents and our ancestors and stuff like that. There was like always a home remedy that could help us. And not and like some people some people will be like don't see the value in home remedies and that medicine is the answer, the key, or a quick solution or pill. Like, really, medicine all originally came from, like, the origins of pharmaceuticals did come from plants. So I see the value. I'm like actually in this like phase where I'm like, ooh, like, what can I make at home that's made from nature? I'm like going in that direction right now. I'm really excited about that because I'm like so curious, like what is out there. I have a lot of friends who make like home remedies out of the plants in their backyard, and they're like versed in it. They know how to use the land and the plants around them. And it's so beautiful and stunning and brilliant that Mother Nature can't if you got in tune with Mother Nature and got to know her better and know what she had there to provide for you, you really like you don't need money in some sense, like some aspects. Like I can see the value of Western medicine for emergency situations, like really dire consequences. And medicine, I feel this inside. Like I feel that in the future that medicine is not going to look the same as it does now. And I'm not saying that through like I'm at that point in my journey where I'm like, well, how do I look at this particular thing and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, like with anything, including people, and especially like people who like seem to be particularly harsh and um, seem like they cause more harm than good. Like, what, there's always something to be learned from this particular experience with a situation or person or whatever. And so, yeah, there's like just so much that we could learn from moving forward if we are open and curious and not afraid of failure and making mistakes. And during this journey of this year, I'm going to circle back, is I realized that I've been developing my muscle for failure, my muscle for being in exploration, being okay with how my path unfolds. Because I've noticed that every time I've stepped into this new like move that I need to take action on, like this thing that I needed to do, like say like a year ago, I was like, I'm gonna make a podcast. And like at that point, when I realized that my journey was taking me to um creating a podcast, I was like, fuck off, you guys, like to my guides. I was like, what are you guys insane? In my insides. But now I'm here and I started this podcast back in March. It's November now. And I have no qualms about it. Like my nervous system is so regulated about it. Like I don't even think twice about it. And it's fucking incredible. And another thing that I've healed through that was if you read my other Substack on cooking, what is it called? I'm Cooking gives me anxiety. I have a part one and part two. It's really funny. I loved how I titled it because it's like it's so absurd, but that was real. My body had a nervous system reaction that manifested as high anxiety and for fear of being judged for the way I cooked. I was like surrounded by like really phenomenal cooks like growing up, and being judged felt so painful in my body when I didn't have a relationship with fear yet and judgment, that I would not let myself even think about cooking. I just leaned on the identity that I'm a shit cook or I don't cook, that's just not my thing. When I like when I realize no matter what you're stepping into, whatever you are interested in, even though your nervous system thinks it's so absurd, it's probably the direction you're meant to go. Like if it's so absurd, maybe that's the direction you need to go. Like, and it's like something so benign to other people that come naturally to other people. And I know like my next steps in my path is learning another language. I'm not there yet. There's like several languages I want to learn, and I'm really excited to when I get to the point where I'm like ready to step back into again, because it's like my weightlifting journey too. Like there's so many things I get into as a manifesting generator. um is I have like as a multi-passionate person, and you don't have to be a manifesting generator to be multi-passionate. Everybody, as long as you're human, you are a multifaceted human being. Is that even in my fitness journey, is that I'm learning to incorporate fitness and lifting into my life, becoming active, and I'm so grateful for it because I'm realizing to be creative in my journey, I have to move my body. It's a part of being human. Like, especially when creativity didn't come natural to me based on my previous programming and my trauma. See episode 3 on art trauma. And you'll I realized that when I move my body, I just came back from the gym and I was just like, I need to record because I'm already getting like downloads and hits and inspirations of things to talk about. Like I felt like I was on the tip of saying things and it's time to record. It's really weird and hilarious, like learning my body in that way. It's like once I move my body enough and like, I think and I'll have John on eventually on a future episode whenever we can find the time to get together. He's a human design reader. Is that when you move your body, you can move that energy, and the just the creative hits just come through. And it doesn't even need to be a movement practice like yoga or me for lifting or walking or riding a bike. It could be just doing something creative, like doing something mindlessly without a purpose. And it'll spark ideas and creativity and those voices inside of you that normally get quieted down by the noise in your brain from all the to-do lists and the worries and the fears and the shame, the guilt thoughts and all that stuff. Ah, so good. Such medicine. Like I'm really like understanding how my body works, which is so fucking cool. Um, what else did I want to talk about? Oh, I had a fantastic quantum hypnosis session with John last night, and his I'm gonna attach it to the Substack that goes with this, and so you guys can listen to it. It's so freaking cool. And know that whenever you listen to these quantum hypnosis recordings, you're getting some kind of medicine from them too. And just FYI, they are through the paid subscription. So if anybody's already paying for it, these recordings are in the QH collection tab under Subsect so that you can listen at any time. And there's so much wisdom and medicine from everybody's higher self who contributed to the Subsect. So I thank you, everybody who um, let me add your personal session to the collection. Like that is such a gift. Like, uh, and I will. And if you guys haven't looked back yet or haven't ventured through that in the Substack, I do link their stuff so you can find them online and like venture through their work. Like a lot of them, like um I think a few of them have their own things going on, like businesses and stuff like that, so you can work with them too. So so cool. Um, what else did I want to talk about? Um, this is that part where I lose my train of thought, but it wasn't like the train of thought that I lost like in that last episode that I tried. It was like 9 minutes in, and it really felt in my energy, like in my head, that I was forcing myself to say shit. And we all know what it feels like. Or I want to say that people know what it feels like when they force themselves to feel shit. But I think as it became in tune with my body in this journey, so far, is that I think I needed to take a step back. All this quiet time I've been having these last like few years and being with myself and my body and my hermit mode is being familiar with my body. Like I was learning to have a relationship with how my body feels and each of its cues, and like even like to when I like my hormonal cues with food or my cycles. But oh yeah, back to John's hypnosis. Such a great hypnosis. And it talks about, and this like parallels to the um the signs that I've been getting of where the collective is going, the portfolio life, and now his quantum hypnosis session. And he was talking about like he wanted to understand because he's a reader and a hypnotist, like a hypnotherapist, and a human design reader. I think I meant to say, and through human design, from my earlier like studies in it, I didn't go that far in it because my energy wanted to go somewhere else. But the the way I learned it and the way I understand it is that it's the science of differentiation for each human, how each human being is different from each other, not how we are the same and how we are meant to be. So we're different and this is who we are. So when um John gave me the intention for the hypnosis session. It was so good. It's so brilliant. He's like, he wanted to explore unity through diversity. And I think this is what we're stepping into. It's not even that I think, I know this is what we're stepping into, moving into the Aquarian age. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, I like got really excited when the 19th of November hit, and it was when Pluto finally is like in the sign of Aquarius, and I was like, yes, I can't wait to see what life is like now, because like for most of my life, Pluto has been like transiting my birth chart Um, and not that Pluto is like does negative and bad things to you, but there are a lot of life lessons in association with Pluto for things and ways of being that doesn't serve you anymore, and it wants you to transform and leave those behind and come out like a better person. And that's the energy of Pluto. So I'm really excited for Pluto and Aquarius because it's going to test us as a collective in how we can step into more unity, more community mindedness, and not even just as humans, but like even like in how can we connect with the earth where we're going to be more earth conscious in this place too. Also, like AI and technology is going to be a huge thing moving forward. Um, Possibly aliens too. I would be surprised if aliens don't show up, but I digress. Um, but yeah, unity through diversity, and I really loved that. And when we ventured through his hypnosis, he stepped into a place of a lot of like the unknown, and like you can meet each step one step at a time, and in the distance you don't know what's out there because there's a lot of fog. He saw that. And then the next place that he saw, he was a fish in a school of fish, and everybody was doing their own thing, but a part of a collective whole in this metaphor or analogy as a school of fish. Everybody moved and flowed together in unison, but they were all doing their own thing in their different angles, swimming in certain patterns, but they all moved as a whole. And I was like, wow, that is such a beautiful analogy of where the collective is going in the future. As long as and the lesson was just to trust your individualism in the collective path. Like we are supposed to be ourselves moving forward. And which is incredible and great. I was listening to, or I saw a post by Simone Soul, and she had a sabbatical over the summer, a very long one, and she ended it just recently. And her first post was one of her first posts is like, "I this might be a business killer, but I am not going to be in business for um, white folks. I'm going to be in business exclusively for people of color." And I was like, that is absolutely incredible. And in the comments, she was talking about, or no, like when you go to the next slides, it talks about decentering whiteness. And it reminds me of this conversation I had in with my sister in the past is how, like, along with, and I say this with care, like I'm not judging anybody, but this is the experience that I've seen and noticed, is that blaming the white person for our experience, and at the same time, we're also um, holding up or pedestaling at the same time. And I'm saying this as a blanket statement. I'm not saying everybody's doing it. I'm not saying you're doing it. And I've seen this in older generations, and when I was having this particular conversation with my sister, she said she remembered back in med school when they were about to do a project, and everybody in their class was this colored BIPOC person, and there was like one white dude. And when they were getting ready to do this group project, everybody just looked at him and he just started talking. And she thought it was so interesting. Like she noticed that and she's like, why are we looking at him? Like, why is he all of a sudden leader? It actually, she said it annoyed her, but she didn't speak up either. So it's really interesting how we also participate in that dynamic. Not all of us, blanket statement, but it just reminds me of how we how like it's a two-way experience. How is this happening from another outside perspective, but how are we also supporting the systems or dynamics in place? So when Simone posted that, I was just like, fucking fantastic. This is incredible, amazing. And when I looked in the comments, like all the white folks underneath the comments, because they're like they understand Simone's message. They're a part of her community. And even the white folks in there was like, yes, please, like, and I understand it. I was like, kind of like that white person in my sister's med school group didn't ask to be a leader either. So, and I'm sure people who identify as white or as white passing is like, I never asked for this role. Like, people just went up to me and assumed that I take this role. And that was just like a fascinating thing to notice. Um, yeah, like email me, let me know how that lands. I know like some people will be like, what? That's really weird thing to say, but it is something that I have noticed. And again, all general statements, it might not be your personal experience. Like everything I say is like anything that I ever share in this podcast ever, it's always like take what resonates. And I really mean it when I say take what resonates because I can only speak to my lens and point of view. You might have a particular experience that might be the opposite or 180 of my thoughts on a thing. So this is where conversation with different people are so valuable and beautiful and just incredible. And I'm just like, whenever I have a conversation with a new person at length, I'm like, wow, I never looked at it in that perspective. And wow, that was your experience. That's incredible. And I that's the energy of openness and curiosity and connection. And I think so far, and there might be like micro pockets in social media of various communities online, is that where this interaction exists. But for the most part, when I like look in the comments sections of some posts, and people are still very like in their critical mind and like in their judgment energy and stuff like that. And it's just something to notice. Like I look at them now and I'm like, I used to be like I used to be very activated, like reading those comments, but I learned a lot from reading them over time. I learned a lot by observing the energy in which these folks come from, and I'm just like, I used to feel very bad for them, very sad for them, pity them. Like, why are you so angry? And then part of me is like, as I ventured over time on these comments, I'm like, well, wait a second. Like, everything's a mirror. I'm like, are they really angry or am I just receiving it as anger? Because I don't have that nonverbal communication cue coming through to let me know if they are speaking from anger or I'm just receiving these words like as daggers towards my nervous system. Um, One case in point, more recently on my Substack, I received my first critic for one of my writings. And I'm here for the truth of like the truth of how my human experience is. I can only share from my human experience. I'm not going to pretend that I know anybody else's. So that's why I share from my own. And it was the the writing, the Substack, what's it called? I have a confession to make. And detailed my journey of not saying certain things. And I wanted to, and in speaking my truth, my intention is to represent different human experiences. And this particular person read my stuff, and it's hard to gauge like where a person is coming from, but I took his words as truth, and he's like, I'm genuinely curious, but he sounded very like beside himself or um like astonished or something. Like that's what I was taking it as. And then when I replied back, and if you guys ever interact with me online and you guys know, like, already kind of know my energy from the podcast, I tend to giggle a lot. So, how does that translate through text? I LOL a lot. And I don't know in which energy, and was made apparent after I made my reply. I didn't understand the energy in which he was approaching me with. Was he approaching me with judgment? Was approaching me with genuine curiosity? That's what I took it as, because that's how I would approach other people, with genuine curiosity. Like, what if this person really just really wanted to know like why I made the decisions I made? And when I made my reply, had my LOLs, I even put a really cool like thing I learned from my Vipassana retreat about impermanence. Impermanence is like the only truth or something like that. I forgot what that person said. I can't even remember his name right now. But and then he replied in the most abrasive and like attacked me. And I was like, what? Where did this come from? And my nervous system's a little activated, like recalling this, but my nervous system was super activated when in the moment when it was happening. And I was like, in my journey of like being in tune with my body and with my feelings, I just allowed myself to feel, and the thoughts that were coming through like aren't necessarily true. Um, I felt what I needed to feel. I went for a walk, I journaled, and after I went through the sine wave of that nervous system experience in my body, and I came out the other side. And if you're familiar with human design, I'm an emotional authority, so I am meant to take action or make decisions from a neutral emotional place. Not when I'm in the middle of my emotions, when I'm neutral, not positive or negative emotions, in the in between, neutral. And which is great because I have the most objective thoughts in that space. And I came back to myself in my neutral place, and I was just like, you know what? I know who I am when I decided to share that story. And I didn't want to be the person sharing out of, like, I didn't want to not share it out of shame or guilt. Like, not sharing the truth because of shame or guilt stops people from showing the totality of the human experience, the good and the bad, quote unquote. I don't really necessarily believe in good or bad. Um, like there are horrid human experience for sure. But when it comes to things like not sharing things out of shame because you weren't being perfect, or the self-righteous side of me would have been like, you fucking lied. How dare you? How dare you do that? Like that way of being stops people from showing up authentically. And that's something that I've been um, mulling around in my brain a lot. Like, how was I being so selfish, self-righteous in my goodness that I took a part in someone not being able to express their authenticity? And that was my experience when I was raising my son. Couple episodes back on, um, or maybe it was the last episode. No, 2 episodes back in Angry Asian Female. What an awesome title. But yeah, how am I playing a part in someone not being able to express themselves authentically? And how are we going to step into individualism if we're shaming people for who they are and how they're being? And this is me as a Sagittarius who's like historically holds truth and honesty above all, like, and positivity and all those things. And when I understood like the nervous system and emotions and all that, I realized that there, for whatever reason, people behave or situations happen, and that is true, and that is their truth. And for whatever reason, they had a set of experience that they behaved this way or acted or reacted in this way. And when I think about people with anxiety, or people with fear, but mostly anxiety, and I remember being the person who had lots of anxiety and fears about the unknown, like like living as an adult, stepping into adulthood in my 20s, everything was scary. And I can see why people, based on how I feel, what fear feels like in my body, and whoever has felt fear in their body and felt like they needed to lie, like, I have a lot of compassion for that now and empathy for why that happens. Like, for whatever reason, their brain and their nervous system felt like they needed to lie to feel safe. I have a lot of compassion for that now. Um, Now, what that train of thought leads to is, oh my God, did they lie to me? Did this person lie to me? Is anybody ever telling me the truth? What is the truth? And usually you're like, I think that goes down the trail of like the unknown, like the comfort in knowing the truth. But do we ever know the truth? What is truth? Especially when everybody has their own, in their own experiences, in their own human lifetime set of experiences, and they see certain things from a different perspective. I really truly believe that there is many truths as there are humans in this world. Now, whether or not people are in their authentic truth or they're in someone else's truth, different story, which that can turn into a rabbit hole for later. But I think I'm going to end this episode here because I had a good go. I'm very happy about how this episode came out, especially after my 9 minute, like, bleh. I was like, ugh, what happened? I have nothing to say. That's it? Like, so this is great. Um, I am still working out. Okay. If you guys listen to the last episode, I am putting together a journaling program because I realize that self-awareness doesn't come naturally to people, but I realized in my many practices over the 3 years with journaling is that self-awareness happens through that practice. So I'm developing a program and it's going to be housed in Substack. This is okay. You guys are seeing like the creative process in motion. Like, I think I touched on this on the last episode, but like as I go along and move in my journey, like little bits and pieces come through, and then one day it'll come to a full picture of what it will look like. And it's really cool because I have like like past me would be like, oh, I need all these things before I can start. And then I realized I am more resourced than I gave myself credit. Or like a lot of us will think like, oh, they have so much money, they can do all these things. They have so many resources, but you never realize through community that you actually have access to so many resources. Like I was messaging my friend and I was like, "Hey, how did you get like this cool like your video looks amazing. I want to get to the point where my video looks amazing too." So that's in the works also. I'm gonna get to the point where the video will look incredible, but for now, I'm happy for wait. I'm just glad that I'm showing up. That like I think in the beginning episodes, I don't know if you can tell my energy that I'm just like, oh my God, I'm on here and I'm on video and I'm being seen. Ah. But anyways, so I did increase my price for my one-to-ones because I realized how valuable it is in my time in in sharing this skill and teaching people this skill. So it's like $50 for 45-minute one-on-ones on how to it's journaling. Okay, let me take a step back. What is this journaling thing that I'm talking about? I'm creating a program that is journaling from the overthinking mind management. I haven't created a solid name for all this, but it's basically mind management for the overthinking brain through journaling to eventually self-hypnosis. And I've tried, ooh, I shared this on Instagram recently on my stories, and I tried as I've been working with people. I have like a few people that I'm working with, which I've been having a lot of fun learning how to teach different people. So I can't wait for how this like program comes together. But I did the self-hypnosis piece on myself the last few days. And you guys know my money journey. I literally wrote a Substack that's titled I Ran Out of Money. And I did the self-hypnosis because I'm practicing hypnosis already. I do it on people. I'm literally calling myself a quantum hypnotist and now understanding what my body feels like in different levels of hypnotic states. So, and I realized that like, oh shit, when I do automatic writing or some stream of consciousness or morning pages, they're all the same thing, just a little bit like tiny bit different in certain aspects, is that I'm actually entering a hypnotic state as I automatic write. And I was like, holy shit. I can literally hypnotize myself, rewire my neural pathways with journaling. Just like it, and okay, so and then as I practice it and to see what would happen. This is fucking crazy, you guys. But I fucking love it. I love these crazy ass stories and I love my journey because it makes my journey really exciting and I love it. So much fun. But I journaled on I self hypnotized myself for money because I already worked on abundance and prosperity. Um, and I know I'm like solid that on that. I am a very abundant person. Like I feel so abundant. But then I realized that money and abundance and prosperity are all different things. So it's like, oh, let me work on the money piece because you can be abundant without money. You can have money and not be abundant. Um, and maybe in a future episode I'll like go into that in detail, or maybe that'll be in the program. Wink, wink. But I did the self hypnosis, and I had these shoes up on Poshmark for like $2,100, and somebody made an offer, and they've been sitting in my Poshmark for like fucking over a year now, and I was like, that's weird. So I like counter offered for $50 more because I was like, what's $50? Whatever. And then they declined it. So I was like, huh, okay, I didn't get down on me. I didn't shame myself. And if even if I had those feelings of shame or like, oh, I fucked it up, I fucked my manifestation up, when I have those thoughts, maybe it's something to notice that I'm being that needs to be let go of or move through, which simple journaling simple journaling practice could like gone, but also self-hypnosis. So like a couple days later, I decided to, it felt like right and good to like self-hypnosis myself again for money. Did the journaling thing. Then I got him like a hit or inkling or intuitive no like hit to re-offer it, offer it with that same price that original person wanted that I counter offered. So I pushed out an offer at that price, and I woke up the next morning to an offer. They just like didn't even counter offer my offer, and like they bought it right off the bat, and now it's on their way to them, and I'm like, yay! I was like, holy shit, did I just rewire my brain for money? What the fuck? How fucking cool is that? And it's really fun too because I've also like I've been like getting creative on how to make money in different ways, and that's what circle back full circle, like the portfolio life opened my mind to like how can I make money in different ways. I don't need to have a job that I spent like half my life in, my 36 hours of my week in, and then the other half I'm burnt out and sleeping for God knows when, like million hours because I'm so burnt out. How can I make money that feels fun and exciting to me? And that'll be a different answer for everybody. Everybody's different and unique. So anyways, so if you guys are interested in that, DM me on Instagram or reach out to me or wherever you like could like connect with me. I've finally set up that email for the podcast, so you can message me through there. We can set something up. I have Instagram, I have TikTok now, and what else do I have? I have the Substack. A lot of the meat of my work is there. I've just been having so much fun writing. So, and writing with other people. So much fun to do things with other people. Like, we don't have to do all of this alone. And that's back to community. Yes. So excited. So, anywho, I'll end that there. I will add John's quantum hypnosis and give me permission to share it. Thank you, John. You're the best. At the bottom of the Substack that will be connected to this podcast episode, links in the show notes. Or if you're watching this video through Substack, it's at the bottom of the Substack. If you're a paid subscriber, you'll have instant access to listen to the recording of that experience. Or if not, you just have to, it's just like, I don't even remember what I priced it at, $15 a month, and you can like listen to all the recordings and then unsub just for $15 if you listen to all of them in 1 month, of course. But like the collection is growing, and I'm very excited because there's so much medicine and wisdom in them. And for me, if you believe in woo, there's a lot of energetic benefit to listening to these hypnosis. So if you want to also rewire your brain through hypnosis, just listening to these hypnosises will be medicine for your nervous system, new ways of being. So I'm very excited for how this is all unfolding. And yeah, so glad you guys are here. Thanks for listening in. I having so much fun. Ever since Pluto hit Aquarius, the energy has fucking been mwah, so good, so different. And I'm so fucking excited for everything that's gonna happen. So, um, I'll check you guys later. Thank you. Bye.